Here's a tightened version, keeping the tone and bite. Living in a lighthouse keeper's cottage teaches you angles, where weather breaks in, where rot hides, where people change when they think no one's watching. This morning, the ocean groaned while Seren sat at the kitchen table, polished and distant, scrolling like the world already belonged to her. My phone buzzed, a text from my wife. A high-value man would pay off my student loans without asking. Stop being a dusty. She glanced up just long enough to see if it hurt. For our house. The down payment we'd stacked like sandbags against the future. I set my mug down carefully because I didn't trust my hands not to break it. The mug had a hairline crack already from the last argument, the one where she said my job was cute and my truck was embarrassing. I typed with my thumbs like a man replying to a delivery confirmation. I replied, "You're right." Seren blinked. It wasn't anger that made her blink, it was confusion. When someone has rehearsed the part where you beg, they don't know what to do when you don't give them a scene. She stared at the screen, waiting for the follow-up. The but, the can we talk, the I'm sorry. There was none. I stood, rinsed my mug, and hung it on the hook like I always did. Normal is a weapon if you know how to hold it. "Darren," she said, voice sweet in the way sweet things rot. "Don't be dramatic." Dramatic. Right. Because nothing says stable marriage like your spouse calling you a dusty liability in the same breath she demands you pay off her student loans like you're an ATM with feelings. I grabbed my keys. She watched me, tracking each movement like a cat watching a mouse that suddenly grew a spine. "Where are you going?" she asked. "To be high value," I said, and walked out before she could decide if that was a joke. Outside, the air was sharp. Late fall and Graverly had teeth. The sea slapped the rocks below the bluff like it was trying to climb back up and take the land with it. My truck started with its usual cough, like an old man clearing his throat to say something unpleasant. I drove into town with the kind of calm that scares people. Not because I was zen, because my brain had finally stopped negotiating with hope. Here's a sharper, compressed version with the same punch. At a red light, I opened our banking app, joint account, house fund. The number still looked like a promise. I thought about the nights I'd stayed up budgeting, the trips I'd skipped, the times I'd said no to myself for us. Then I transferred the money, clean, legal, 2 taps. I moved the down payment into an account in my name, the emergency one I'd opened years ago after watching my father get erased in a divorce. No music, no drama, just a loading wheel and a confirmation number. High value. 10 minutes later, I pulled into Harborline Chevrolet. Lemon cleaner, new plastic, success cosplay. A salesman rushed over, smiling too hard. "Looking for anything in particular?" I looked past him at the red Corvette. Bright, loud, unnecessary. It was the kind of car a man buys when he wants to be seen, and at that moment I wanted to be seen for exactly one reason. "Yes," I said. "That." The salesman's eyes widened, just a hair, that tiny pause where he recalculates you. My work boots, my jacket, the fact I didn't look like the guy in the commercials. "Great choice," he said, voice shifting into a lower gear. "You want to take a seat? We can—" "I'm paying," I said. He blinked again. "You're paying outright?" he asked, like I'd just told him I was going to adopt the building. "I'm paying what I want," I said. "Today." He guided me to a desk with a chair designed to make you feel like you're asking permission. I sat anyway. He asked my name. I told him. He asked if I was trading in. I told him no. He asked what I did. I told him I reviewed safety compliance for construction builds. "Oh," he said, like that explained why I didn't smile. While he ran numbers, his gaze kept flicking to my phone on the desk, like he expected it to ring with a father's approval or a boss's warning. It rang. Not a call, a voice note. From Seren. I didn't open it right away. I just watched the little waveform icon sit there like a heartbeat. The salesman leaned forward slightly, trying to be helpful the way sharks are helpful when they smell blood. "You okay?" he asked. I looked at him. "You ever watch someone try to unring a bell?" He didn't know what to do with that, so he smiled and pretended he did. I hit play. Seren's voice exploded into my ear, too loud, too raw, stripped of her morning polish. "Darren, are you out of your mind? Are you actually doing this? You cannot—" A sharp inhale. "You need to come back, right now. Return whatever you did. We have plans. We have a house fund. We—" In the background, faint but unmistakable, I heard a man laugh. Not a friendly laugh. A confident one. The kind men do when they're sure they're not the punchline. A clink of ice. A TV sportscaster's voice, muffled. Seren continued, voice pitching higher, panic trying to dress itself up as outrage. "Do you want to ruin everything? Do you want to humiliate me? This isn't funny. You're being—" The voice note cut off. She'd ended it, probably to send another one with better lighting. My thumb hovered over replay. I didn't need to replay it. I'd caught what I needed. The salesman cleared his throat. Wife?" he offered, like a child guessing the answer in school. I looked at him and let my mouth tilt just enough to be mistaken for a smile. "Something like that," I said. He slid the paperwork across the desk. "So, the down payment is—" "No," I said. "We're done with down payments." His laugh came out nervous. "Right, of course." I signed. Pen on paper. My name, neat and steady. Each stroke felt like severing a rope. When he went to get the manager, I took a selfie from the dealership floor, with the Corvette behind me and the big glass windows catching the gray day like an audience. I didn't try to look handsome. I looked calm. Then I typed the caption, "A high-value man drives what he wants," and I sent it to Seren. There are moments in a marriage that are like hearing ice crack under your feet. You don't fall right away. At first, there's just that soft, evil sound that tells you physics has changed and your body hasn't gotten the memo yet. My phone vibrated immediately. Call after call, voice note, text, voice note. I didn't answer. I watched the salesman hustle like I'd just walked in with a lottery ticket. He brought the keys like they were a crown. He had the big grin now, the grin reserved for customers who make him a story. "Congratulations," he said. "She's yours." I stood there, holding the keys, and felt something unfamiliar. Not joy, not relief, control. Outside, the Corvette's engine turned over with a snarl that sounded like it wanted to bite the road. People looked. Of course they looked. New England towns don't have much to do in the off-season except watch other people's choices. I drove home with the ocean on my left and Seren's panic on my screen like an unread newspaper. Halfway back, another message came in. A text this time, shorter, uglier. "If you don't come back right now, I swear to God, Darren." No threat, just the promise of one. The kind of sentence that relies on you being afraid of the person writing it. I pulled into our driveway and shut off the engine. The lighthouse cottage sat there like it always did, weathered, stubborn, mine. I'd rebuilt it beam by beam while Seren posted before and after shots like she'd done anything besides pick paint swatches. My phone buzzed again. I ignored it. Inside, the house smelled faintly of cedar and coffee. Familiar. Safe. I walked to the hallway where our little doorbell camera monitor hung. Cheap setup. Good angle. The kind of thing I'd installed because I liked knowing what approached my home. I scrolled back through the last few days. There was Seren, leaving for a girls' night. There was Seren, coming back late. There was Seren, leaving again. And then there was a truck I didn't recognize at first. Dark, clean, too expensive for how careless it parked. It sat in the blind spot of our neighbor's spruce tree like it was trying to hide. But not quite. A man got out, tall, confident. He didn't look around the way honest people look around. He walked like the world was already his. Seren met him at the door with the kind of smile she hadn't given me in months. The camera didn't record sound, but it didn't need to. She leaned in. He touched her waist like he'd practiced. Then they disappeared inside my house. I stared at the screen until my eyes started to sting. It wasn't that I was surprised. Surprise is for people who still believe their life is fair. What I felt was something else, something quiet and heavy sliding into place. I rewound again, slower this time. When the man turned, the camera caught his face in full. I didn't know him personally, but I knew his type. Every town has one: the community sponsor, the donor, the guy who smiles too much at fundraisers and makes wives feel seen while their husbands pay the bills. I paused on the frame where the truck's front plate was visible. Not the full number, just enough to recognize it later. My phone buzzed again. Another voice note from Seren. I didn't play it. I didn't need more sound from her. I walked into the kitchen, sat in the chair she'd been in that morning, and looked at the empty spot across from me like it was a crime scene. Then I opened my messages and typed one line. Not long, not emotional, just clean truth, delivered like a receipt. Tell Gavin to stop parking where my camera can see him. I hit send. And for the first time all day, I smiled for real, small and mean, because I knew exactly what would happen next. When people like Seren realize you're not begging, they don't calm down. They escalate. My phone lit up again. Incoming call. Seren. I let it ring. Outside, somewhere down the road, the ocean kept hitting the rocks like it had all the time in the world. And inside my house, my wife was about to learn that high value wasn't something you demanded. It was something you paid for, one way or another. Seren called 6 times in the next 2 minutes. Not spaced out. Not cautious. 6. Like if she could fill the air with enough ringing, reality would get tired and change its mind. I let it. There's a special kind of silence you can create when you refuse to react. It's not peaceful. It's a vacuum. And vacuums make people do stupid things just to hear something, anything, bounce back. The 7th time I answered. I didn't say hello. On the other end, Seren's breathing came fast, shallow, someone trying to sound furious while drowning. "Are you proud of yourself?" she hissed. I looked at the wall above the sink where she'd once taped paint samples and called it our vision. My vision, it turned out, had been paying for hers. "Depends," I said. "Are you calling from the same place you sent that voice note? Because the laugh in the background sounded pretty proud." Silence. Not the normal kind. The kind where a lie is sprinting around in someone's head looking for an exit. "What are you talking about?" she said, a beat too late. "Nothing," I said, "just enjoying the acoustics." "Darren, listen." Her voice softened so abruptly it was almost funny, like watching someone change masks mid-sentence. "You're acting unstable. I'm worried about you." There it was. The first brick in the wall she was going to build around the story. Darren is dangerous. Darren is spiraling. Darren is the problem. "You're worried," I said. "But you weren't worried when you were inviting Gavin into my house." Another silence. Longer. Then the sound of someone else in the room. Faint. A shifting. A throat clearing. Seren whispered, like she'd forgotten she'd called me. "Stop." Not to me. To whoever was with her. My hand tightened on the phone. "Put me on speaker," I said. "No," she snapped too fast. "Darren, I'm serious. You need to come home and talk like an adult." "I am home," I said. "That's the part you seem to forget." Her voice rose. "Return the car, return the money. This is our future." "Our future," I repeated, tasting the words like something expired. I leaned back in the chair and stared at the doorbell camera monitor again, frozen on that frame of Gavin's face, the smug ease of him, the way he moved like he'd never been told no. "Seren," I said calmly, "you texted me that a high-value man would pay off your student loans without asking, so I did what a high-value man does." "You punished me," she spat. "I upgraded," I corrected. You love upgrades. She inhaled sharp. You don't get it. A man like Gavin. And there it was again. The name slipped out with the ease of a habit, like she'd been saying it a lot. I smiled into the phone. Tell him I said hi. Don't you dare, she started. Already did, I said, and hung up. I sat there for a moment, listening to the quiet like it was a new language. Then I stood and did the next thing smart people do when their life catches fire. I started documenting. Not in a dramatic conspiracy board way, just clean, simple, responsible. The kind of behavior that looks boring right up until you need it. I opened a folder on my laptop and named it Seren, Timeline. It felt clinical. It felt ugly. It also felt necessary. I saved screenshots of her dusty text, saved the Corvette selfie, saved the voice note. I typed a quick transcript of it, including the background sounds, because memory lies when emotions get involved. Then I pulled up the banking app and exported the transfer confirmation with the timestamp and account numbers. I didn't do it because I was planning a divorce right that second. I did it because I knew Seren. When Seren couldn't control a situation, she controlled the narrative. And narratives ruin people in small towns. A knock sounded at the front door, not a polite one, not a neighborly tap, a knock with rhythm, authority. Someone who'd watched too many movies where loudness equals power. I didn't rush. I walked to the hallway mirror, checked my face, pale but steady. I looked like myself. That mattered. Then I opened the door. Seren stood there in heels she'd never wear to the grocery store, coat unbuttoned like she'd run out mid-performance. Her eyes were too bright, like she'd been crying and then fixed it with rage. Behind her, in the driveway, sat a dark truck. Clean, expensive. Parked in a way that suggested it had never once worried about being towed. So June Pringle had been right. Seren pushed past me like she owned the property deed. Where is it? She demanded. Where's what? I asked. You know what? She snapped, marching into the living room. The paperwork, the money, God, Darren, are you trying to humiliate me? I didn't text you first, I said, and shut the door gently. She whipped around. Don't play dumb. Oh, I'm not, I said. I'm playing calm. Her gaze flicked past my shoulder, toward the kitchen, toward the hallway, like she was checking for cameras, for witnesses, for weapons. Her voice dropped into something syrupy and dangerous. Return the down payment. No, I said. Darren. I said no. She stepped closer. The smell of her perfume hit me, expensive, sweet, and suddenly nauseating. I remembered buying it for her last Christmas. I remembered how she'd laughed and said, finally, something decent. Do you want to lose me? She asked. I looked at her, really looked. The face I'd once read like scripture now felt like a book someone had swapped pages in. You already left, I said. You just haven't moved your stuff yet. Her cheeks flushed. I did not. I held up my phone and tilted it so she could see the paused doorbell camera frame. Gavin's face. Gavin's hand at her waist. Seren froze. Not long. Not enough. Just a tiny lockup of her pupils, like a deer realizing headlights are not negotiable. That's, she started. That's my front door, I said. Her anger snapped back on like a breaker. You're spying on me? It's my camera, I said. On my house. You're insane, she hissed. This is why a woman needs a man who... I interrupted her with a small laugh I didn't recognize as mine. Who pays off her loans without asking? Seren's eyes flared. You're bitter. No, I said. I'm awake. From outside, the truck's door opened and shut, heavy, confident, boots on gravel. Seren's head snapped toward the window. Don't, she whispered, again. Not to me, to him. A knock hit the door, the same rhythm as before, louder now, like the person knocking had decided politeness was for people who lose. Seren's face went pale in a way makeup can't cover. He just wants to talk. I'm sure he does, I said. Men like Gavin always want to talk when they think they own the room. Darren, please, she said, and for the first time all day I heard real fear under her voice. Don't make this worse. I walked to the door, slow. Seren grabbed my arm, her nails dug in. Don't, she said again, softer. I looked down at her hand on me like it was someone else's. Then I opened the door. Gavin Rourke stood on my porch like he'd been invited. He was taller than me by a couple inches, broad in a way that had never seen a hard day it didn't choose. His hair was perfect. His jacket probably cost more than my truck tires. He wore that smile men wear when they think charm is a skeleton key. Darren, he said, like we were neighbors swapping sugar. We got off on the wrong foot. I stared at him, letting the silence stretch until his smile started to stiffen. Did we? I asked. He chuckled lightly. Look, man, Seren's upset. This Corvette thing. He shrugged like I'd bought a pet tiger. It's dramatic. Seren appeared behind me, hovering like a guilty shadow. Gavin's eyes flicked to her, quick and proprietary. I noticed that. I noticed everything. Come in, I said. Serene's breath caught. Gavin stepped forward. I didn't move out of the way. He stopped, confused for half a second. Actually, I said pleasantly, no, stay right there. His smile sharpened. I'm not here to fight. I'm not either, I said. I'm here to set boundaries. Gavin's nostrils flared. You're acting like a child. And you're acting like a man who parks his truck in other men's driveways, I said, calm as weather. We all have hobbies. His jaw tightened. The charm mask slipped for a heartbeat. Under it, there was irritation, entitlement, the real Gavin. Seren told me you've been stressed, he said. He spoke to me, but the message was for her, like he was marking territory with words. I smiled. Seren tells people a lot of things. He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice as if we were sharing a secret. Return the money, return the car, stop making a scene, you'll regret it. Threat, clean, quiet. I nodded slowly, as if considering. Then I looked past him, down the driveway to where the dark truck sat, and I said, in the same calm tone, tell your truck to stop parking where my camera can see it. Gavin blinked. Excuse me? I held his gaze. I have the footage. I have the timestamps. I have her messages. I have the voice note where you laughed in the background, and I'm building a timeline. Seren made a small choking sound behind me. Gavin's face changed. Not a lot, just enough, like a man realizing the prey is holding a spear. You think you're smart, he said. I know I'm patient, I replied, and patience beats confidence every time. Gavin's smile returned, but it was colder now. You don't want to do this in Graverly. I laughed softly. Gavin? Graverly is where this kind of thing gets done best. He took a half step closer. I didn't step back. I simply raised my phone, opened my messages, and showed him the one line I'd sent Serena earlier. Tell Gavin to stop parking where my camera can see him. Then I looked him in the eye and said quietly, You've already been seen. Gavin stared at me for a long moment. Then he smiled again, too wide. All right, you want to play? I shrugged. I'm not playing, I'm collecting. He turned toward Serena. Get your things. Seren's head snapped up. What? Gavin's voice sharpened. Now. She looked at me, then at him, then back at me, like she was trying to decide which cliff to fall off. And that's when my phone buzzed again. One of those unknown number calls that usually means a scam or a mistake. I glanced at the screen. Graverly Credit Union. I answered, still watching Seren. Mr. Hale? A woman's voice asked, polite but tight. This is Marcy from Graverly Credit Union. I'm calling about a transaction attempt on your joint savings. Seren went very still. Marcy continued. Your wife attempted to initiate a transfer and requested we freeze the account pending, her words, a domestic dispute. We wanted to verify authorization. I didn't look away from Seren. I said calmly into the phone, "No authorization, don't freeze anything, log the attempt." Marcy hesitated. "We did. Also, sir," she sounded rehearsed. Serene's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Gavin's eyes narrowed, the first real crack in his confidence. I thanked Marcy, ended the call, and slid my phone back into my pocket. Then I smiled at my wife, the same small, mean smile I'd had earlier. "Looks like you're escalating," I said. Serene's voice came out thin. "Darren, I held up one finger. "Here's what happens next," I said, still calm. "You can pack a bag and leave quietly, or you can keep trying to paint me as the villain while you're standing in the doorway with my camera footage burning a hole in your pocket." Gavin scoffed. "You don't have a case." I turned to him. "I don't need a case yet." I stepped closer, just enough to make him register me as a physical fact. "I need timing," I said. "And you just gave me the perfect date." Gavin's expression flickered. "What date?" I didn't answer. Because from the corner of my eye I saw Serena's phone light up on the coffee table, a notification banner, a screenshot of an invitation. "Elena Rourke requests the pleasure of your company." Seren snatched the phone too fast, like you can hide light by grabbing it, but I'd already read enough. I looked from Seren to Gavin. Then I said, almost conversational, "So, there's a gala." Serene's face drained of color like someone had pulled a plug. Gavin's confident posture tightened, and I realized in a single clear moment that Serena hadn't just cheated. She'd been climbing, using him, using me, using the town. And now the town's biggest room was waiting, full of people who loved two things more than charity, a scandal and a public fall. Gavin leaned toward Seren, voice low and urgent. "We leave. Now." Seren looked at me one last time, eyes bright with panic and hate. "This isn't over," she whispered. I nodded. "I know." And as they hurried down my steps toward that dark truck, I stood in my doorway, watching them like the ocean watched ships, patient, indifferent, relentless. My phone buzzed again. A new message. From a number I didn't have saved. A single line. "We need to talk before the gala. ER." I stared at it. Then I looked out at Gavin's truck backing out of my driveway like it had never been there. And I thought, oh, so his wife knows. And suddenly, for the first time since Serena's dusty text, I felt something close to excitement. Not because I was happy, because the game had just gotten bigger, and in Graverly, big games always end in public. I didn't reply to Elena Rourke right away. That's another thing living in a small town teaches you. Urgency is usually a trap. People who actually hold power don't chase. They wait to see who runs. I locked the door after Seren and Gavin left and leaned my forehead against the wood for a moment. Not because I was weak, because I was recalibrating. There's a difference. Then I did something Seren never understood. I made coffee. The kind that takes time, grounds, kettle, steam, ritual. When your life starts to tilt, routine is ballast. Only after the mug was warm in my hands did I text back. "Talk about what?" 3 dots appeared almost instantly, then vanished, then appeared again. Finally, "About how badly this ends if you let it get sloppy." I smiled. "Tomorrow," I typed. "Public place. Gull and Anchor. Noon." Of course it was. In Graverly, the Gull and Anchor wasn't a bar, it was an archive. Things said there had a way of becoming permanent. By noon the next day, the town already felt different. It's subtle, the shift. You don't hear rumors, you feel them. People look a second too long. Conversations pause when you walk past. Someone you've nodded to for years suddenly finds the ceiling fascinating. I parked the Corvette right out front, not because I wanted attention, because I wanted to remove doubt. Inside, the Gull and Anchor smelled like fryer oil and old wood. Same stools, same scratched bar, same bartender, Gina, who'd been pouring drinks long enough to know when to pretend not to hear things. Elena Rourke sat in the corner booth. She didn't look like Gavin. Where he radiated noise, she radiated precision. Hair pulled back, neutral colors, eyes that didn't blink much. She gestured for me to sit like this was already decided. "I won't take long," she said before I could order. "Men like my husband get long when they think they're charming." "I've noticed," I said. She studied me. "You're calmer than I expected." "I've had a day," I said. "Maybe two." She nodded. "Serene's been busy." There it was. No easing in. No politeness theater. "I know about the house fund," Elena continued. "I know about the Corvette. And I know about the text she sent you." My eyebrow lifted. "You get all the fun messages." "I get what matters," she said. "And what matters is that your wife didn't just sleep with my husband. She tried to use him." I took a sip of coffee Gina had slid over without asking. "Most people do." "She tried to enter donor circles," Elena said. "Used my name. Promised things she couldn't deliver." I leaned back. That must have been awkward. Elena smiled thinly. "No. Awkward is pretending you don't know someone is circling your life like a raccoon in a pantry." She reached into her bag and set a folder on the table. Thinner than mine. Cleaner. "I've been collecting too," she said. "Nothing illegal. Calendar overlaps, invoices that don't line up, texts forwarded to the wrong person." She slid the folder closer. "I don't want him in prison," she said. "I want him finished." There was no heat in her voice, no anger, just arithmetic. "And Seren?" I asked. Elena's eyes hardened. "Collateral." I nodded slowly. "That's where we differ." She tilted her head. "Oh?" "I don't do collateral," I said. "I do direct hits." Elena laughed once. "You think you're in control." "I think I know who I am," I replied. "And I know this town." She tapped the table. "The gala is Sunday night. Old Mill Atrium. Everyone who matters will be there. Press, donors, city council. I can put you on stage." "After you," I said. "No," she said. "With me." I studied her for a long second. Then I shook my head. "You want my evidence before the lights come on." Her smile faded. "You don't trust me," she said. "I trust gravity," I replied. "People fall when you let go." She leaned back, recalculating. "If you go rogue, you look unstable. If we do this together, it looks like integrity." "Integrity is just branding with better lighting," I said. Elena stared at me like she was seeing something new, something inconvenient. "Give me the packet," she said. "I control the room. You control the story." I thought of Seren's voice note, of Gavin's boots on my gravel, of the way Serena had grabbed my arm like ownership. "I'll be there," I said. "That's all you need to know." Elena stood. "This ends Sunday." "Everything ends," I said. "Timing is the trick." She hesitated, then leaned in just enough to lower her voice. "Don't underestimate my husband," she said. "When men like him feel cornered, they get reckless." I smiled. "That's what corners are for." She left without another word. Gina wandered over, wiping the bar. "You okay, hun?" "Never better," I said. She snorted. "Town's buzzing." "Town always buzzes," I replied. "This one just has teeth." That afternoon, I ran the timeline again. I added the bank call, the gala invite screenshot, Elena's message. Then I printed everything. 2 copies, one for the room, one for me. I slid them into a manila envelope and wrote the date on it like evidence, because presentation matters when truth gets loud. At dusk, I drove past the old mill. Lights were on inside, setup crews, catering trucks, banners for causes that always needed money and never noticed where it came from. I didn't go in. I circled once. Then I parked and watched. That's when I saw Gavin. He came out a side door, phone to his ear, pacing like a man arguing with gravity. I watched his posture, the way his shoulders sat higher than usual, the way he kept checking the lot. He felt hunted. Good. I started the Corvette. The engine cut through the evening like a challenge. Gavin's head snapped up. He saw the car, then he saw me. I didn't wave. I just pulled out slowly and drove past him, window down, letting the engine talk. His mouth tightened. His phone dropped to his side. I could almost hear his thoughts. Not here, not now. I didn't stop. I didn't slow. I led him. He followed. Not like a chase, not dramatic. Just two vehicles moving through town, one confident, one careful. I took a turn toward the municipal garage near Town Hall, the one with cameras on every level, security desk at the bottom, and echoes that made footsteps sound like witnesses. Gavin followed. Of course he did. Men like him hate not knowing where they're being taken. I parked on level 3. He pulled in behind me. I got out first. He slammed his door. "What the hell is your problem?" he snapped. All charm gone now. I leaned against the Corvette, casual. "You followed me. You're stalking me." I laughed. We're both terrible liars. He stepped closer, too close. His breath smelled like mint and rage. "You don't understand how this works," he said. "People like you don't win." I straightened. "People like me don't play your game." He reached out and jabbed a finger at my chest. That was his mistake. Not because I wanted to hit him, because cameras love gestures. I stepped back, raised my hand slightly, and spoke clearly. "Don't touch me." The words echoed. Footsteps approached. A security guard glanced up from the desk below. Gavin froze. I smiled. "See?" I said quietly. "Timing." He backed off a half step, eyes darting. "You think you're clever," he said. "You think exposing us makes you powerful." "No," I said. "I think pretending you're untouchable makes you sloppy." He sneered. "Sunday won't go how you think." I nodded. It never does. Then I walked past him, slow, deliberate, and tapped the security desk on my way out. "Just letting you know," I said pleasantly. "This man's been following me." The guard looked up, looked at Gavin, looked back at me. "Sir," he said to Gavin, "you need to leave." Gavin's face flushed dark. He stormed out without another word. I watched his truck disappear down the ramp. Then I got back into the Corvette and sat there a moment, hands on the wheel, heart steady. 3 days. That's all it took for Seren to turn my life upside down. 3 days. And now the town was leaning in. My phone buzzed. A message from Seren. "We need to talk before Sunday." I stared at it. Then I typed back one line. "We already did." Outside, the old mill loomed against the dark like a waiting stage. Sunday was coming, and when it did, there would be no private conversations left, only witnesses. Sunday arrived the way storms do in Graverly, quiet, polite, pretending it was just another day. By 6 p.m., the old mill atrium glowed like a cathedral built for money. Glass walls, steel beams, white tablecloths hiding cheap folding tables, banners about community, integrity, futures. All the right words, none of the right people. I parked the Corvette where everyone could see it, not in valet, not tucked away, right out front. Let them talk before I even walked in. Inside, the air buzzed with rehearsed laughter and clinking glasses. Men in suits they wore twice a year, women who knew exactly how long to smile, phones already out, pretending not to be. I spotted Seren near the donor wall. She looked flawless, black dress, hair perfect. The kind of presentation that says I belong here even when the math doesn't. When she saw me, her face twitched. Just once. She recovered fast. Seren always did. She crossed the room like confidence was muscle memory. Grabbed my arm like we were still a team. "You cannot do this," she whispered through her smile. "I already did," I said. "You're embarrassing yourself," she hissed. "Return the car, we can fix this." I leaned in, voice low. You don't fix rot. You replace the beam. Her nails dug into my sleeve. You think people will take your side? I don't need sides, I said. I need light. She opened her mouth to respond, and the microphone squealed. Elena Rourke stepped onto the stage. The room hushed the way rooms do when the person holding the power clears their throat. Thank you all for coming, Elena said, calm, practiced. Tonight is about transparency, about trust, about accountability. Seren stiffened. Gavin stood near the back, drink in hand, jaw tight. He saw me watching him and looked away. Elena continued. Before we begin the auction, there's a matter that needs addressing, one that affects this community directly. She gestured. Not to Gavin, to me. The room turned, every head, every phone. I walked up the steps and took the microphone from her hand. It felt heavier than it should have. Good evening, I said. I won't take much of your time. Soft laughter rippled. People always think the calm guy will be quick. I was married, I continued, and like most of you, I believed words meant something. I pulled out my phone and read, clear and slow. A high-value man would pay off my student loans without asking. Stop being a dusty. The room shifted. A few sharp inhales. Serene's face went white. So I agreed, I said. I withdrew the down payment I saved for our house, and I bought a Corvette. A murmur rolled through the crowd. I sent her a selfie, I continued, with a caption, a high-value man drives what he wants. A few people laughed. Not kindly. I received a voice note in response, I said. She begged me to return the car, and in the background, I paused. Another man laughed. I let that sit. Then I laid everything out. Not theatrically, not angrily. Receipts, timestamps, doorbell stills, calendar invites, her own words. Truth doesn't need volume. It needs space. By the time I finished, no one was looking at me anymore. They were looking at Seren, at Gavin. Elena stepped back to the mic. For clarity, she said, voice steady. My husband is not separated. That was the sound of a reputation breaking. Gavin took a step back. Serene lunged toward me, grabbing for the microphone. Stop, she hissed. You're insane! Security moved. Phones lifted higher. I stepped back, letting her flail in the open. She wasn't my problem anymore. I walked off the stage. Behind the atrium, near the service corridor, Gavin caught up to me. You're finished, he spat. You think this ends here? I stopped, turned, looked at him. Give me your keys, I said. He laughed, sharp and brittle. You think I'm afraid of you? No, I said. I think you're afraid of everyone else. I held out my hand. Security was 10 feet away, witnesses everywhere. He hesitated. Then, slowly, he handed them over. I walked to the valet desk. Bring up the dark truck, I said. Put the bow on it. The valet blinked. Sir? The big one, I said. Red bow. Minutes later, Gavin's truck rolled into view. Giant dealership ribbons slapped across the hood like a joke that cost money. People laughed, not politely. I handed Gavin his keys back. You can keep the truck, I said quietly. I just wanted you to remember how it feels to be displayed. I stepped closer, lowered my voice. Come near my house again, I said, and the next conversation won't be public. I didn't touch him, didn't need to. I turned and walked away. Behind me, Seren screamed my name. I didn't turn. Outside, the night air was cold and clean. I slid into the Corvette. The engine roared alive. Inside the atrium, everything was still collapsing. Voices raised, donors leaving, phones filming, reputations bleeding out in real time. I pulled onto the road. Didn't look back. Because the thing about revenge, real revenge, isn't watching them fall. It's knowing exactly when to leave while everyone else is still staring at the wreck. The Corvette hadn't even cleared the second intersection before my phone started vibrating itself off the console. I didn't look. The sound alone was enough. Seren's panic had a frequency now, a rhythm, the kind that accelerates when control slips through fingers that were never meant to hold it. At the third light, it stopped. That was worse. I drove toward the water instead of home. Instinct. You don't return to the scene of the fire while it's still burning. You let it consume what it needs to consume. I pulled into the overlook above the harbor and shut the engine off. The town lay below like a circuit board, lights flickering, connections breaking in real time. Somewhere down there, Serena was trying to explain herself to people who had already decided what she was worth. Somewhere else, Gavin was discovering how quickly charm evaporates when witnesses show up. My phone lit again, a text this time. Seren. You ruined my life. I exhaled through my nose. Me. No. I stopped funding it. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Serene. Come back. We need to talk. This went too far. I looked out at the water. Dark. Endless. Honest. Me. You wanted high value. You got market price. I put the phone face down. For a minute. Just one. I thought that would be it. That the night would swallow the rest quietly. I was wrong. Headlights swept across the overlook. A vehicle pulled in behind me. Slow. Deliberate. I didn't turn. I didn't need to. The door slammed. Footsteps on gravel. I counted them. Heavy. Fast. Angry. Gavin. Get out of the car, he said. I stayed seated. You embarrassed me, he continued, voice tight with the kind of fury that thinks it's righteous. You think you can just walk away? I finally turned my head enough to see him in the side mirror. Jacket gone. Tie loosened. Eyes bright and reckless. This was the man Elena had warned me about. Cornered. I opened the door and stepped out, slow, making sure the movement read exactly how I wanted it to read. Calm. You followed me again, I said. Don't flatter yourself, he snapped. You owe me. I laughed once, short, sharp. I owe you a thank you, I said. You made it easy. He closed the distance between us in 3 strides, too close, breath hot, hands balled. Give me one reason, he growled. I held his gaze. Because if you touch me, the footage from tonight becomes a pattern. He hesitated. Just enough. That hesitation was everything. I stepped closer instead, invaded his space the way he liked to invade others. You lost your sponsors tonight, I said quietly. Your donors, your board seat. By morning, the calls will stop. By Tuesday, your name will be a liability. He swallowed. You think I won't survive this? He said. I think you will, I replied. Just not like this. He shoved me. Not hard, just enough to feel powerful. I staggered back a step on purpose. Let the gravel bite. Then I straightened and smiled. Headlights flared again. A car pulled in behind Gavin. Then another. People, phones, voices. Someone from the gala had followed. Maybe security. Maybe a donor with curiosity and a camera. Gavin turned, saw them, saw himself. Too late. I wiped imaginary dust from my jacket. Careful, I said. This town remembers sequences. His jaw clenched. He looked at me like he wanted to tear something apart just to feel whole again. Then he did the smartest thing he'd done all night. He backed away, got in his truck, drove off into the dark like a man fleeing a verdict. I stood there until the other cars left, until the overlook was quiet again. Only then did I get back into the Corvette. Only then did I go home. The house felt different when I returned. Not empty, resolved. Serene's things were still there, shoes by the door, coat on the hook, but the energy was gone, like a stage after the audience leaves. My phone buzzed one last time. A voice note. I almost didn't play it. Almost. Seren's voice came through raw, stripped of performance. You didn't have to destroy me, she said. I would have left. I listened without blinking. Then I deleted it. No reply, no closure, No forgiveness theater. I walked into the bedroom and pulled a single bag from the closet, dropped her clothes into it, not angry, not gentle, efficient. I set it by the door, then I turned off the lights and stood in the dark, listening to the ocean crash against the rocks below the bluff. It sounded the same as it always had, because water doesn't care who you were pretending to be. It only responds to gravity. I picked up my keys, walked back outside. The Corvette's engine ignited the night one more time, and as I pulled away from the lighthouse, away from Seren, away from Gavin, away from the version of myself that kept paying to be tolerated, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. They would be talking about this for years, and I would never have to explain myself again. The road out of Graverly curves along the cliff like it's trying to talk you out of leaving. I didn't listen. I drove fast enough to feel the Corvette's engine pull against my ribs, fast enough that thought thinned out and left only focus. Salt air, asphalt, headlights slicing dark. My phone buzzed once. I ignored it. Buzzed again. I ignored it again. Third time. I glanced down just long enough to see the name. Seren. Not a call. A location pin. I slowed. That was new. People don't send locations unless they want witnesses or leverage. I followed it. The pin led back toward town, but not the mill. Not the house. An industrial strip near the old marina. Warehouses converted into creative spaces. Empty at night except for echoes and bad decisions. I pulled in without headlights. Seren's car sat crooked near a loading dock, driver's door open, interior light on like a confession booth. She stood by the water's edge, phone in her hand, arms wrapped around herself like the night had teeth. No Gavin. Interesting. I cut the engine and stepped out. She spun when she heard the door shut. Her face was wreckage now. Mascara streaked, dress wrinkled. The version of her that lived for rooms like the atrium had been evicted. "You happy?" she said, voice cracking. "You got what you wanted." I stopped a few feet away, close enough to hear the water slap the pylons below us. "I didn't want this," I said. "I wanted the truth." She laughed, brittle. "You wanted revenge." I shook my head. "I wanted you to stop lying." She stepped closer, too close. "I loved you," she said. I held her gaze. "You loved what I paid for." Her mouth twisted. He was supposed to be temporary. That was the moment. Not when she cheated. Not when she mocked me. That word, temporary. Like I was a bridge she'd planned to burn the moment she reached the other side. I nodded slowly. So was the money. Her phone buzzed in her hand. She looked down. Her face changed. Fear this time. Real fear. "What is it?" I asked. She swallowed. "Gavin." The water behind us rippled. A truck engine growled. I turned. Gavin's headlights flared at the far end of the lot, bright and aggressive, like he wanted us to know he was coming. He jumped out before the truck fully stopped. No jacket, no smile, no witnesses this time. "Get away from him," he snapped at Seren. She froze between us, suddenly aware of how badly she'd miscalculated the order of things. I didn't move. Gavin closed the distance fast, finger jabbing at my chest again. Same move, different setting. "You think you won?" he said. "You think tonight ends this?" I stepped sideways, putting space between him and Seren without touching either of them. "I think you followed me," I said calmly. "Again." He laughed. "No cameras here." "True," I said, "but habits matter." I reached into my pocket. Gavin tensed. I pulled out my phone, unlocked it, hit play. Elena's voice filled the night, sharp and controlled, recorded earlier that afternoon without her knowing, legal in this state, one-party consent. "If he comes near you again, I'll make sure the board hears every version of every story." Gavin's face drained. "That's not—" he started. I took one step forward, not aggressive, certain. "You're done," I said. "You just don't know it yet." Seren backed away from both of us, panic flickering across her face as she realized she'd run out of men to hide behind. Gavin lunged, not at me, at the Corvette. Pure impulse. He slammed his fist into the side mirror, shattering it, the crack loud as a gunshot. Glass rained onto the asphalt. Seren screamed. I didn't. I walked to him slowly, deliberately, every step measured. That, I said quietly, was expensive. He stared at the broken mirror like he'd just woken up somewhere unfamiliar. Here's a tightened, colder cut. Same ending, less air. I leaned in so only he could hear me. Touch my property again, I said. And the next call isn't to security. It's to every sponsor you've ever met. I won't raise my voice. I'll just raise questions. I straightened. Seren was crying now. Real tears. No performance left. This is your fault, she sobbed. I looked at her one last time. You wanted high value, I said. This is the bill. Gavin stared at her like she'd poisoned him. Then he did what cowards do. He got in his truck and drove away. I stood there a moment, the broken mirror at my feet, the water below reflecting a city already turning it into gossip. I deleted Seren's contact, deleted Gavin's. Then I got back into the Corvette, one mirror gone, engine fine, and pulled onto the road. Seren screamed my name behind me. I didn't slow, because revenge isn't rage. It's leaving at the exact moment they finally understand they lost.